Hello, 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 good people. So I was in the store the other day and I ran into an old stalker. I don't even know any other way to say it. So I ran into a stalker and I tried in all my powers to kind of like walk away, move to a different part of the store. It's a chain store, so it's fairly large. So I'm trying to move to another part of the store, hoping that he would leave in time enough for me to go to the register because I did not want to have to encounter him. And I could feel myself getting worked up. So rewind for a second. I want to first give you a little bit of history of why he was stalking me because, we use that word stalker so lightly, but this was serious. I was younger. I was an adolescent. I was 14 and he stalked me from literally 14 to 16 years old. And I laugh about it now and I could have a smile on my face. But at the time it was extremely scary. He would follow me home from school. He would be across the street from my house and standing there. And depending on the day of the week, I would always be home alone. And so there was days where I literally would feel afraid to start walking towards my house because I thought he was going to follow me or I thought he was just going to try to do something. And so, and I'm not a shy person by far, but what I realized at the time was that I was so afraid to share this story or to tell anyone. And when I did, people kind of jokingly said things like, well, he has a crush on you. It's no big deal. He's harmless. It was a lot of that kind of stuff. And so when I was 14, I'm leaving middle school. And so I'm like, okay, good. We're going to go to high school. He's going to leave me alone. He's not going to follow me home. He's not going to be at my locker all the time. And this sounds like, well, that's not that big of a deal. But what was scary was some of the things that he would say to me and some of the things that he would do when there was no one else around. So it was things like, at the time, now I'm going to give all my business away, but there was things like, I'm going to be your first, I'm going to hurt, it was just scary things that made me kind of feel like my safety was at risk. And being 14, 15, you don't really know how to communicate that to adults, or you don't really know if you're overreacting or if this person who everybody likes, because he was a person who was popular. I'm just going to say he played sports. I don't want to give away who he is. And it was easy for people to kind of overlook that someone so charming, quote unquote, could be a little scary to someone like me who wasn't always, who was socially separated in some ways, where I had my own identity. So I had my set friends, I had the people I like to talk to about things, but I wasn't really a person that I personally tried to interact with a whole lot of people. So it's kind of weird because I know a lot of people, but I'm not like a socially connected to people in terms of, especially at the time, because of whatever was going on in my life. So that being said, I was afraid all the time. And when we went to high school, it only got worse because I'm not even sure he lived on my side of town, which is what made it so scary, was that he would literally come from somewhere or out of nowhere and be there following me, standing across the street, staring at me, saying inappropriate things, threatening to kind of do things if we were ever alone. And so I was smart enough and I don't want to say smart because I don't want to indicate that some people who have been hurt are not smart, but I was aware enough of what I was feeling that I just kept staying away from him and never being alone with him. So that being said, so now fast forward back to today. And the reason I'm sharing this video is because I learned something about myself. I learned today that, as some parts of us can be captive to our past. And some things or some people are triggers that remind us of our past and put that same level of fear back into us to either make decisions to protect ourselves or in some cases freeze and to feel frightened. And so what I decided at the time is, instead of being afraid, I am no longer 14, 15, 16-ish is when he stopped. I am no longer a child and I'm no longer afraid of this man. And if he tries to do anything, I know that I can protect myself. I know that I have no problem with communicating my boundaries. And also if he does anything too ridiculous, I have no problem with making sure that I call the police or any of those things. So what I decided was that I was not going to hide and run around the store so that he wouldn't see me. I decided that I was going to continue shopping. I was going to continue what I was doing, which at the time I was looking for vitamins. And so he just happened to be over in the vitamin section. And I'm actually okay with that, because when he came over, he spoke and I said hello. And then he started to continue a conversation. And I said, I'm not interested in talking with you. And I was very clear about that because I wanted to make sure that my boundaries were clear, that I'm an adult now. I don't know how he perceived what he was doing at the time, but I know what it made me feel, and that's what matters. And so as a result, I decided that I am no longer captive to the fears of my past. I have a right to see to my perspective of my past. And I also have a right to set boundaries that say you will not hurt me, and I will no longer allow you to make me feel fear for something that I know that I have ownership over, which is myself and my body. And then ultimately, when I walked out of there, and I felt strong, I felt successful in setting a boundary that maybe he doesn't even know what he did. Maybe his perception of the past is totally different than mine. But I know what I felt. I know my experiences are true. And I knew then that when I ran into my stalker or ex-stalker, that I was stronger and that I am stronger. And I hope me sharing this story allows you to think about, what are you captive to? What are you imprisoned to from your past, in terms of fears, in terms of hurts, in terms of different offenses that may have happened to you? And ultimately forgiving yourself, loving yourself, and setting new boundaries as to who you are now, not who you were or what happened to you. And so when I walked out of there, after I walked out of there, I felt stronger, I felt fearless, and I felt alive. And I absolutely am glad that I ran into my ex-stalker.